Hello, everybody. I'm back. It's Coach Ivy Revine coming to you with another video. And if you've been trailing this blaze with me, we've been going over a lot of things. We discuss codependency at its finest. We discuss an active codependent. We discuss passive codependent. We discuss relationships with a passive codependent or an active codependent. And as we go forward with this beautiful journey and you stick it out with me, we're going to get into so much more details regarding all of those archetypes. But today, I want to start the process of healing with some people who feel that they see themselves in the lining of some of those things that I discussed. And today, I want to talk about 5 ways of starting to overcome your codependency. Now, codependency is a really hard thing to even recognize in yourself. And if you have acknowledged that and did some self-actualization, you realize that this has just been a journey that you've been on since childhood and from your own childhood traumas. And some people aren't capable of really recognizing the problems that they have in themselves and aren't able to actually do the work. But if you hear and you know someone with this affliction, and even if you see that within yourself, you may have realized that there is some healing that needs to be done in order so that you can strengthen and have really healthy relationships going forward in your lives. So how do we start the process? How do we start the process of overcoming codependency? And like I said once before, I don't really think we're ever really healed from it. We have some of these triggers, right, that arise in us, and it takes over sometimes our day. But if we really are recognizing when those triggers occur, we can really do some major and wonderful changes within ourselves. So one of the things I want to speak about is number 1. How to get over codependency. Well, we start by doing some inner self-reflection. Now, what does inner self-reflection look like? Well, I always like to say that self-reflection is like an ear to a wound. You ever realize when you're a child and you cut yourself and someone say, well, just let it get some air, right? That air sometimes helps just it dries it out, it keeps it from, because the moisture can sometimes get an infection going right through the pores, and then it can get you sick, right? And so you always have that older person say, let it get some air. I think self-reflection is the air to that wound, right? The moment where you say, okay, just opening yourself up to the possibility that there is a problem, right? And I need to address this wound. So the process of that is asking yourself these very fine questions. I like to say that asking yourself questions really is the whole healing process in of itself. So ask yourself in your self-reflection, what am I scared of? What am I scared of? What am I holding on to? What have I done lately that's worth remembering? For me, when I realized that I was codependent, I did things out of fear. I feared losing things. I feared losing people. Abandonment was scary for me. It was huge. So I would hold on to relationships that weren't good for me. We're going to talk about my codependency story next week, so be very prepared for some juice and some tea. Okay. But I held on, and I held on out of fear of losing things. So that was part of my self-reflection. That was my very first question I ever asked myself when I was ready to heal from codependency. Number 2, step outside of your comfort zone. For codependents, when we have love targets, when we have people that we tend to overcompensate for ourselves. We overcompensate that love towards them, right? We're not giving enough to ourselves, so we overcompensate by loving someone else. And those could be specific love targets. It could be your children. It could be a significant other. It could be a boyfriend. It could be a husband. It could be a wife. It could be a mother. You could be caretakers for someone. And we overcompensate and neglect ourselves. So we don't tend to step outside of our comfort zone. We do build a little bit of a bubble within that pretty much target range, right? We have a love target, we have a target range, and we build a bubble around that, and we give entirely to that person or those people, to the point where it's self-sacrificing, and we don't tend to step outside of that comfort zone. So we wake up and go to bed targeting those people, just love bombing those people, giving entirely too much of ourselves to those people, and we're hurt when we don't get it in return. So how do we start that process of going outside of our comfort zone? So maybe you should ask yourself this couple of very good questions. If you could be anywhere else in the world right now, where could it be? And I know you want to be right here with me, so I'm going to give you a pass on that. But anywhere else, where could it be? And I used to love to let my imagination take flight. I mean, where could it be? But it's also a process of putting action to some of those places, right? Putting action to that thought, putting action to that fantasy. How can I mean, we might not be able to get to France in a pandemic, right? But we can certainly get to some of the things that we love and always wanted to do, right? Did you ever want to take piano classes? Did you ever want to take drumming classes? Did you ever want to, go dancing? One of my clients, she was fabulous. She never danced a day in her life. And part of her healing process was going out there and learning how to do ballroom dancing. She's phenomenal at it. She won prizes. It's awesome. She stepped outside of her comfort zone. What is or was the most positive thing that you did, or the most freeing thing that you've ever done? Ask yourself that question when you're ready to step outside of your comfort zone. To me, I think part of my healing process was when I used to love writing poetry. So I was great at writing, but a friend of mine told me maybe I should go to an open mic and perform it on stage. And when I did, it was the most freeing experience for me. It was something of mine, something else for me to own, but not people, right? Didn't have to own people, but I own a part of myself, a part of my own talent, a part of my own being. It came from me. It was my own words, poetically. And I went on a stage and I performed it in front of people. It was scary. I was walking outside of my comfort zone, but it was the best experience of my life. And I wasn't focused on my love target. I wasn't focused on the guy that I was dating at the time, where most of my thoughts and my feelings were always consumed with him at the moment. I wasn't even thinking about him. Number 3, experience life. Experience life, not someone else's life, yours. As codependents, we're living, but we're living for other people. We're living for their opinions of us. We're living for their feelings about us. We're not living our whole natural born life. It gets a little redundant after a while, right? It gets a little bit like there you end up watching people, the same people life that you're experiencing, their lives, you get to watch them live their own. And then you hurt when you're not included in that life. You hurt when you're no longer part of that life. So what does that look like? Ask yourself this question. Where's your place of peace? Where is your place of peace? outside of that love target? Where is your place of peace? What makes you laugh? What makes you smile? I mean, I love laughing. I love smiling. And when I'm in my codependency at its finest, I'm not smiling. I'm not having a good time. I'm steady trying to control my love target to love me in the way that I want him to love me. That's not fun. I'm not laughing. I'm not happy. This other person, he's laughing, he's happy, he gets out there, he enjoys his life, and I'm unhinged when he's not here with me, right? That's what codependency look like. How do you change that? Right? So explore your place of peace. Find it. Find a little corner on a couch with a cup of tea and a moment of reflection. Try it. Thoughts only about yourself, no one else, not your love target. Number 4, explore turning your weaknesses into strengths. I mean, well, if you're codependent, you feel like that's probably affliction. It's weakness, right? How do we turn that into strength? I said that into another video, but I didn't give life to that, and I'm going to do another video on that. I'm going to do a really extreme video on that, turning your weaknesses into strength. But ask yourself 2 things, and I would like you to explore it. Really explore this. Ask yourself these 2 questions. Which is worse, failing or never trying? Failing or never trying? Ask yourself that question. Which is worse? Then I want you to ask yourself another question. What is the one thing you would like someone to remember you by if you was no longer here? What would be the most positive thing you want them to remember you by if you was no longer here? Most positive thing. And not what you did for them, because we're big enablers. What is it, the wonderful thing about yourself? What is that one wonderful thing about you? That awesome talent, that part of your empathy, which is not a weakness. We're big empathizers, so we feel tremendously, right? But we do it at the expense of ourselves. But how can we do that? How can we be, instead of enablers, how can we be wise folks? How? Ask yourself that question. How can you use that to the betterment of people? Give yourself enough to somebody, but not all of it. Give yourself enough to give some great advice, but don't give them the kitchen sink. Don't give it all. Don't give it all. Think about that. And last but not least, number 5, explore the inner self. And how do we explore the inner selves when we don't even know who we are? How do we explore the inner self when we're so dead set on other people, exploring other people's inner selves as codependents? Well, when you are in pain, ask yourself this question. When you are in pain, what is the kindest thing that you did for yourself? What is the kindest thing you can do for yourself when you are in pain? You know how, like I said, grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and sit in a corner. When I'm in pain, feeling emotionally beaten down or emotionally tormented, or I'm not happy, I jump inside of a snuggly cover, a little fleece, and I sit on my couch on a corner with a cup of tea, and I bring silence to the room. I get back to my inner place of peace. When I'm in pain, I give no life to what I'm in pain about. I give it no extra thought other than a moment of my own reflection. Why am I hurt about that? Why am I hurt? And another one I want you to ask yourself, and this is the very last question I want you to ask yourself in that number 5, in exploring your inner self. What are the words that you live by? What are the words that you live by? And I'm not going to answer that today about what the words I live by. I'm going to do that on another video. I'm going to do a whole video on moral compass. We're going to speak about the words you live by, the morals you live by, your principles. Let's speak about that on another video. This is important for codependents to explore during the healing process. Your moral compass. What are the words that you live by? What is your principles? What are the words? What word defines you? What are the words that define you? Is it a sentence? Is it a quote? What do you live by? Let's think about that. Let's reflect on that. I'm going to do another video on that. And I'm going to leave it here because I gave you 5 really great things to self-reflect on. And I want y'all to leave that in the comments below. Tell me how your process is going. Let's do that over the next week. And let me know how your experience is going with that. I'm going to let you know about mine because every day is a process for a codependent, right? But if you like what you hear and you like what you see, like and hit the subscribe button and come back and do some more journeys with me. We do it every week, every Sunday. I'm going to be here every Sunday giving you more juice, more jewels. And when we talk about a quote to live by, I really want to express this. This is one that I really want to express, and it's by Maya Angelou. She said, "Nothing will work unless you do. Nothing will work unless you do." And my babies, I want to tell you that nothing will unless you do, right? So let's do it. I see you next week.